I've got a Black Friday special for you, boss, because it's that time of year again. Time to show your business who's boss with a CEO Day. CEO Days are my favorite boss habit for gaining clarity and momentum in my businesses. And CEO Day Kit is the set of tools that I use to make it easy. This powerful toolkit has helped me and almost 1,000 creatives just like you make the time to work on our business and create a plan to achieve our goals. It can help you turn your business goals into an action plan too. The best part? Now through Monday, you can save $100 off your purchase of CEO Day Kit. That's nearly half off with no code required. Visit beingboss.club/CEO to snag your CEO Day Kit at $100 off and show your business who's boss today. Welcome to Being Boss, a podcast for creatives, business owners, and entrepreneurs who want to take control of their work and live life on their own terms. I'm your host, Emily Thompson, and in this first part of a two-part conversation with my friend Sarah Becker, who you first heard from recently in episode number 318, we're chatting about retirement for bosses. In this half of the chat, we're diving into Roth IRAs, setting your retirement vision, and giving you the first really easy step every boss needs to be taking to start planning for retirement. You can find all the tools, books, and links we reference on the show notes at www.beingboss.club. And if you like this episode, be sure to subscribe to the show and share us with a friend. Our audience survey results are in, and yet again, the biggest challenge facing business owners like you is marketing. So I have a podcast recommendation for you. It's time to check out Imperfect Action, hosted by Steph Taylor, brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. Imperfect Action is a bite-sized online marketing podcast for business owners. Join Steph as she answers all your business marketing questions and deep dives into the nitty-gritty of online marketing, content marketing, social media marketing, and marketing strategy for business owners. I recently had the pleasure of sitting in on a live recorded episode by Steph where she broke down the marketing potential arising from the world of Web3 for small business like us. And y'all, listening to her talk about Web3 finally made it make sense in my head. And her library of content is just waiting for you to tune in. Listen to Imperfect Action wherever you get your podcasts. After 10 years as a wedding photographer, real estate investor, and small business owner, Sarah kept hearing the same story from her biz besties over and over again. While outwardly successful in their businesses, they were utterly failing in their financial goals, if they even had financial goals. Sound familiar? She started asking every businesswoman she knew about their money. Sarah learned that less than 2% of the creative entrepreneurs in her network were happy with the state of their finances. That's when she started her career as a financial educator. She believes that money doesn't have to be scary, that curiosity is more important than correctness, and that everyone can become an expert of their own money. Yes, financial freedom is possible. Sarah, welcome back to Being Boss. I think you might be the fastest return guest in the history of the show.
And I feel so honored. And I just think we should make this a monthly thing. You know, I'll just recurring calendar invite.
Right. What is this? Like the second, third, last Tuesday of every month? We'll have a
The quality
Sarah
might
Becker
decline.
episode.
Suddenly subscribers are fleeing, your numbers are going down because it's just me talking about whatever I feel like that month.
Right. This is actually now the Sarah Show. Hope you all enjoy.
What a smooth coup. Sorry, Emily. You can go to the store. You can go buy some rocks. We're good here.
Perfect. Would love to.
But seriously,
no,
thank you
really.
for
Of
having me
course.
back.
Of course. And really, I'm so excited to have you back. Maybe a little bit of maybe your listeners deserve some reasoning here.
This chick again, explain
as to why you're back so soon.
Yes.
So Sarah was here for a recent episode of Being Boss. Hold on, I'm going to get the number for you. Can I find this quickly? Yes, I can. Episode number 318, Sarah Becker was here for this podcast in an episode called Saving and Spending Money in Your Business. So one of those, usually our money episodes are incredibly popular. So I'm going to call it that popular episode.
Yes.
That came out back in September as of you listening to this now, even though it's still September for us here, but that's just the magic of podcasting.
It
And
is.
whenever we were done with that episode, I was like, I got a job for you, basically. Because one of the things that has made this show so successful over the years, that I am here. Before it was Kathleen and I here and our guests talking about business topics in a way that was easy to understand for two reasons. One, none of us came from business backgrounds. Like, I'm not talking from an MBA. I'm talking from like experience where I just call things the things I call them. And that makes sense to me in a real world kind of way that creatives connect with. And two, I'm here talking to creatives who I know don't have MBAs and also need to be spoken to in a way that just makes sense for folks who don't have those MBAs. And listening to you talk about money in the way that you were made me realize that you are just the person that I want to come in to have a conversation that I've needed to have on this show probably for the past 5 years and haven't. And that is around retirement.
Yes.
I get pitches all the time from, really buttoned up. Yeah, really buttoned up white dudes.
Yeah.
Wanting to come talk about it. And I'm like, but you can't. You literally, I don't think you can in the way that our people need to hear it.
Yeah.
You can. I know you can.
Thank you. I'm honored.
So you're here to talk about retirement with us. We have a couple different things we want to go through over the course of this episode. There's a chance this could be a two-parter. Just going to throw it out there.
There's always the chance with us.
Always the chance.
Goes on.
That this could just keep going. But what I really hope for everyone listening to this is that you can gain some understanding around retirement, because in the Being Boss community or in the conversations that I'm having one-on-one with bosses, the topic of retirement comes up a lot in the world, in America these days. Retirement comes from the man.
Indeed,
right?
It does.
It is your corporate father
yes.
who is supplying your retirement to you. And for those of us who have not chosen that path, who have decided to go at business on our own, retirement is usually one of the last things we think about because we're dealing with all the other things, but it's not that hard. It's not impossible by any means. It is something we should be thinking about, but because we've never had to think about it before, we don't even know where to start. So, Sarah, show us the beginning.
Me. Yes. Okay. So retirement is definitely one of those things that we put off, right? Like, we know it's important, but it's never urgent until you're, 30 years down the line. So I totally understand why people put it off. But one thing I really want to start out with, which I hope is really motivating, is that due to compound interest and the way the stock market works, the earlier you start, the richer you will retire. So even if you were starting that Roth IRA and putting $50 a month in it when you're first starting out, you can expect a 7% return of growth every year. That's very conservative. So as this is able to grow and compound, then that's when your money starts literally working for you. That's when you literally can just check it once a year, print that statement for your CPA and be like, wow, like I am setting up. So getting started as soon as you can and automating are two huge things that you can do. And currently in the United States, only 13% of self-employed people are saving for retirement.
Are you kidding me?
I am not kidding. 13%. And that's like the latest like CNET stat. I mean, they just did a study about this right before the pandemic. So that's like a 2020 figure. And let me tell you why I think that is. Yes. Okay. I think that a lot of people go into entrepreneurship after having a corporate job for a little bit, right? So in the back of people's minds, I see this all the time with my clients. They're like, I have a 401k somewhere. I have a Roth. I need to roll over at some point. And I think because they have the account, they're like, I'm good. There's a few grand in there. But if you're not actively contributing to that account, then it's not actively growing, right? So I think a lot of people have stagnant accounts. And then I think for a lot of other people, retirement can be kind of gatekeepy, and it seems so much more complicated than it actually is. And that's why when I work with people who are starting their business, so it's like, okay, you know what to do. Get your LLC, get your EIN, get your business bank account. I add on a fourth little to do, and I'm like, open a Roth IRA. If you can only put $50 in this year, that's fine. But start it so that it's there. You know, you can contribute anytime. It takes literally 30 minutes to start one. Again, I think in our minds, we make it this, well, if I'm going to do it, then I need to research the best stock possible. I need to research the best plan possible. And that's, you know, something you've talked about on the show is like perfectionism as, you know, kind of like it's against progress sometimes. You just need to start.
Yeah, so, perfectionism as procrastination.
That's it. I was like,
yeah.
It's a P. Yes, as procrastination. And, you know, there are a lot of things you can procrastinate that don't harm you financially in the future, but retirement absolutely is one. Because the earlier you start, the richer you will be. All that to be said, if you were listening and you're like, I'm 50 and I haven't started, do not despair. But that just means we need to be more aggressive and we need to think about alternate methods that aren't just the stock market, because you're not going to be able to save enough if you start at 50, unless you're really putting back. And that's when we start talking about real estate is a great option. You know, we talk about all sorts of different things for cash flow and retirement. And I also think that because creative entrepreneurs are like, I'm taking this different path. And like you said, retirement just feels like something it just feels like capitalism, you know, like it just feels like this thing that we're not a part of. So I would really challenge, like, if you are listening today and you're like, oh, yes, exactly. I would really challenge you to look at retirement. Instead of thinking about it as retirement, think of it as freedom. Like, how can you plan for your future freedom? Because that's what creative entrepreneurship is all about. And none of us want to be doing this when we're 70. I don't think.
Yeah. I think even those of us who like really love the thing, I mean, you look at 70, you're like, no, I don't think I want to be really then.
Right. I think you want to have options. You know, like when you were young and you have 100% of your health and you have, you know, just a couple young children or no children, like, again, you don't realize how many options are available to you. And every decade, your options can slim if you're not prepared.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I love it. So it's important.
Guys, let's do it. It's important. Yeah. Yeah. It's important.
Okay. So boiling it down, it's important. And I love that you were literally making this one of those first steps of starting your business.
Yes.
That that should be a thing. I love the idea of doing that. And one of the things that I most love about it is that, one, the sort of habit forming thing, and two, the mindset of it, of like, if you know, we've talked about how it's hard to start paying yourself 3 years down the road if you've never paid yourself, because you're used to all of that money staying in your business and all the things. Like, it's hard to start cutting yourself that check. You have to do it. But I feel like the same is to be said about your retirement. You know, 5 years into your business, you start a retirement account and it's like, if you start your business though, paying yourself and submitting to your retirement, then it just is a part of what you do, and you are taking care of yourself now. Like, future you is going to thank current you for doing this thing.
Oh my gosh, so much. Yes, absolutely. And I see a lot of people be like, well, I wanted to wait until I made 50K profit a year to start a retirement account, or I wanted to wait until I hit that. And again, I just want to reiterate, the sooner you start, the richer you'll be. Like, this is not something we want to wait on. And just like you kind of have to have health insurance, you kind of have to save for retirement. Fortunately, it can be cheaper than health insurance a lot of the time.
Oh my God, if I were putting what I paid to the health insurance that I do not use into my retirement, I would retire a bajillionaire.
You would a literal bajillionaire. Yes. And that would be amazing for you.
It would be amazing. Okay. So then let's talk about what this looks like. So you're talking about, like, one of the first steps is to do the thing, but what if you didn't? What if you didn't do it? And maybe let's even...
You mean, what if you're 87% of self-employed people and you didn't do it? Yeah.
Basically.
Let's talk
if you're everybody else
yes.
and you're not doing it yet, you've been in your business for 6 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years, whatever. And you're like, I know it's been on my to-do list for like 14 years.
Yes.
I'm well aware that I need to do the thing. Where does someone even start?
Okay. So I always recommend starting with a Roth IRA. That stands for Independent Retirement Account. So if you're listening to this and you're like, I hope to own a business one day, but I don't even have my LLC yet, you don't need one. A Roth IRA is attached to your social security number. So you can get started now if you're a 1099er, a freelancer, does not matter. I recommend people start with that because I love the way that account works, and because the maximum, it's easy to work up to over time. The max a year is $6,000. I know that sounds like a lot, but if you think about other things that you're spending on, it's a really good way to kind of get started. And again, you do not have to max it out. Now, at this point, I write a check literally the first week of January to my Roth IRA, $6,000. I max it out every year right away. But when I was starting out, I was putting like $100 a month in there. It was like an internet bill. Okay. So just get started. So that is always what I recommend doing. And you can do that. You do that through an institution, just like you would have a bank account through a bank. So I recommend Vanguard or Fidelity. Betterment is also a newer one that's really great. You could open up a Roth IRA in there. And that's something really important to remember is that once you put some money in there, you have to actively invest it or it will just sit there. Can't tell you how many people I know who have a Roth account, have put money in there, but never clicked the little button at the bottom that says invest. So that it's just been sitting there because it is an extra step. So a Roth IRA, it is like a bank account where it holds your money, but you need to actively invest that money in your Roth IRA to be in the stock market.
Okay. Yeah.
Do I think we need this step? I do not. It'd be great to eliminate. But I don't make the rules. So we're doing what we can. And when people ask me, I really love Apple, so I'm going to buy a few stocks of Apple, and I love Costco, so I'm going to buy. Okay, no. That is not a strategy. You can shop at Costco, but we're not going to invest in Costco, right? Okay. We are going to invest in index funds. And what is an index fund? It is an amazing fund that is basically taking little bite-sized pieces of the entire market so that over time you are averaging out what the market is averaging, which is what you want. If you get started and you're like, oh, this is fun, you can give yourself a little money to play around, but that is not a retirement strategy. And I want to say a shout out to my friend Jordan, if you're listening, who was like, I like Crocs, so I bought a stock of Crocs. I was like, no, we're not gonna buy the stocks that we're wearing on our feet. We're not doing that. So unfortunately, like that's a little boring, but also fortunately, it's a little boring, right? Because it literally is set and forget. Now, people also ask, how much money do I need when I retire? And I think that is such an important question. It's literally, we got to reverse engineer just like a budget. And if you are looking at the stock market and that is your retirement plan, which I mean, it is for me like 80% of the way, you can count on drawing down after retirement 4% of what you have in the market every year and never touching the principal. So it's a really safe. So if you wanted to draw down 40 grand a year, you would need $1 million. Okay. So that's a really easy way to think about how much you want to save and how much you want to be able to draw down. And when calculating that number, a lot of us hopefully will have paid off our houses by the time we retire. So we're not going to have a mortgage, but there's also a lot of question marks about, well, what's Social Security going to look like? And what's healthcare going to look like? And so I really say, like, what you're spending now, let's just pretend we're going to spend that in retirement to give us some wiggle room. No one spends as much after 65 as they do now at 40, but that gives us a little wiggle room, which I love. I love a little wiggle room.
I love all of this too, because I finally understand all the things that David's been saying to me.
Look, I'm here to improve your and David's knowledge of what the other's talking about. Like, what can David and I talk about next week? Like, have him send his schedule over.
Y'all can have the real conversation. We were talking before we got on this, that on the way to the office to this recording, I had to call David and be like, so what are we doing for retirement? He's told me this, like, every year he's like, he shows me, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm looking at. No idea. And so I asked him what he was doing, and basically he said this, but not in those words.
Yes. Yeah.
And I was just like, okay, that's in my head for this conversation. Now I think I get it. I love this. We're doing this. I'm very proud of us.
Saving for retirement. I'm so proud of you and proud of David.
Yeah. Very much so, David.
It's amazing. And what's great about too, being in a partnership, whether it's a business partnership, a personal partnership, or for you and David, both of you don't have to be involved in this, right? One person can help. There's too much in the world to do for everyone to be involved in everything. Yep. So a lot of times when I meet with clients, they'll be like, I do this for my family, or I want my partner to do this. And that's totally fine. Totally fine. Yeah. Something to note about the Roth is when you start making big bucks and you're starting to profit over $144,000 a year, you can no longer contribute to a Roth. The government's like, hey, we've helped you out enough. We're going to cap you here. And that's another reason I recommend starting with that one first when you're
even
not
capitalism has its glass ceilings, everybody.
Yes. Yeah, you're going to hit it and they're going to be like, time for you to get an independent 401k because you're out, you're out for the Roth. And a great thing about an independent 401k, which you can start anytime, and I have one as well, is that it is tax advantage. Like you can deduct whatever you put in there from your income to get your tax bracket down. But again, that's so personal to every person. A good example that I will give in my personal life is that for the last 4 years, I've been maxing that baby out. Okay. Well, now the bank is like, we don't really want to give you a mortgage because your income on paper is so low and has been for the past few years because I put about $30,000 in there every year. So this year I'm working with my CPA on a different tax strategy to not put so much money there, not deduct so much, so that I can get a mortgage. Again, this is like a little silly, right? Like I literally told the banker, this is a tiny bit silly. Like I feel like
I could see you looking at a grown ass man and saying just those words with just that face.
He's a little silly in his button down, so you can't give me a mortgage. It's a little silly.
Yep.
But one thing that I work with clients is figuring out like what is the best mix. And I brought a few examples if you think that would be helpful. Okay.
Absolutely.
So, again, shout out to these people who are letting me share their numbers. Okay. So my client, Maya, she's an artist and her annual sales, $65,000. Okay. So she's like paying her bills, but again, she's not like on a yacht. All right. She's happy with this amount. This is what she wants to be doing. And she has a partner who has a corporate job, which I know a lot of creative entrepreneurs also have. So he's been able to max out his 401k. He has a partner match with his firm that is giving him a little more money. So what she needs to make to retire is less than average. So she only invests in her Roth IRA. So she maxes it out at $6,000 a year, but she doesn't have plans to open up a 401k because she doesn't need it. She started saving at age 30. Okay. At age 60, she'll have almost $700,000 in there just from doing that. Okay. Because she started again at 30. A little more like high powered example is my friend Elsie. She makes $150,000 in sales. And so she has an I-401k. She cannot do the Roth anymore. The IRS is like, not for you. So she annually invests $38,000 in there. Okay. Because she did not start till age 45. So she's catching up. So she's like, well, at least because I'm making so much money now, I can put a lot of it away. I can easily live off $100,000 a year. And she'll still have by age 60, even though she's only going to be doing this for 15 years, she'll have 1.3 million.
Nice.
Again, the magic of compound interest. And just to show that like it changes a lot. I mean, I have another client who's a photographer, annual sales around 50K, but she started at 22. So because she started maxing out her Roth, $6,000 a year at 22, she won't ever have to open up a 401k and she'll have 1.7 million at age 60.
Oh my God. Can I just retire now? All these things are like, okay, what do I have to do to retire now? And I think that's kind of part of it too, is you can do some reverse engineering with that as well, right?
Absolutely. And I think, Emily, you and I have talked about this personally, is that I plan to be, I don't really call it retired, but I plan to be work optional at 45. That's when our son is going to be going to college. So that's why I'm putting $30,000 away in retirement. Like, again, when the banker's like, why are you doing this? I'm like, well, because I don't want to work till I'm 65. Yeah. So I think that you can absolutely reverse engineer it. And I have seen so many creatives do so well with real estate properties, buying investment properties, renting them, having that cash flow is also huge for your income. And, I always say like, it's either you cut your expenses, you make more money, or you do both. And I've really tried to pretty aggressively do both over the past 10 years.
Yeah. I also love that example of someone 45 who is showing up to do it in that way too, because I do feel like there's probably a large portion of people, what would you say, like 87%?
Yeah, 87%. Yeah.
Who is like far enough along. I think our, general audience age is between the age of 30 and 50, who probably hasn't started it yet. And I feel like this is one of those things too, where I feel like it could be easy to be like, well, I haven't done it yet, so I might as well just never.
Yes,
but
I think
no.
so. I think so. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens in about 20 years when all those people kind of hit retirement age, because this is really the first generation of creative entrepreneurs we have.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be interesting to see. And something I would really encourage people, if they're listening and they're like, okay, I need to get started, is that, Elsie making 150K and now saving 40K for retirement, she didn't have that extra 40K. She was spending 150K a year. We had to go through and be like, where are we going to cut so that in 15 years you can peace out and live in your lake house and your grandkids can come over. Right. And that's and now she's like, I don't even notice that I'm not spending that, because lifestyle creep is real. So again, a lot of times we don't need to be spending as much money as we are, and we could probably make a little bit more money than we are. And just a couple strategic choices in both of those areas can lead to huge savings now, which means even bigger savings down the road.
Think of a time when you felt disconnected from work. Maybe an important email got sent to spam, only for you to find it when it was way too late. Maybe a partner or a team member took an action based on old information when an update could have saved so much time and effort. Or maybe you finally went on vacation and came back to customer complaints. Being disconnected has a steep cost. If your teams and systems aren't talking to each other, it's impossible to see the full picture, to take the right actions. And do you know who pays the steepest price? It's not you. It's your customer. With all of your teams on the same page and all of your data in one place, HubSpot can transform your everyday conversations, strategic decision-making sessions, and everything in between into moments customers feel good about. And with a lovingly crafted suite of tools, you can seamlessly connect your team so everyone has access to the same data and you're able to focus on what really matters, your customers. Learn how HubSpot can help your business grow better at HubSpot.com. Is anyone else eyeballs deep in the return of travel, conferences, retreats, meetups, which means receipts? I'll be honest, I'd gotten used to not having my wallet overflowing with wads of flimsy paper that I just had to save. Luckily, that's not how we have to live anymore. Not me or you, thanks to FreshBooks Cloud Accounting. In fact, organizing your expenses has never been easier. Take photos of receipts with your phone using the FreshBooks mobile app and then throw the receipt away. You can even do one better by applying receipts directly to clients or invoices when you need. Travel lighter and still do your job. What more can a boss ask for? Try FreshBooks free for 30 days, no credit card required. Go to freshbooks.com/beingboss to get started today. Ooh, I love all of this. And I love that this is it's just one tactic, but it's also the tactic of, I think, this is the standard of what everyone needs to be doing. It is something that you can do on your own with if you have the skills to download this podcast and listen to it, you have the skills to get yourself a Roth IRA.
You definitely do. And I also have a retirement 101 guide on my website that literally will be like, step 1, you go to this website. Step 2, you enter in this number. Okay. I am breaking it down. And you can find that on beckertalksmoney.com/resources. It's just the retirement 101 guide. It goes through all of this. And again, I really am just trying to break down this weird gatekeeping system we have around retirement. And I will say that I do think part of it is that it does profit companies like Edward Jones or Northwestern Mutual, stuff like that, who are, taking commissions and fees to do this work. I know so many clients that are with companies like that are now kind of, moving away from that. And something I'll say about that is that 90% of actively managed funds, which is like an Edward Jones fund, they don't beat the market. They're not better than what I'm doing, at my little laptop with my little chai tea. And so I want to point that out because I really do think that there's a lack of confidence issue, especially with women, that we can't figure this out or we don't know. You do know. you can, if you can open a bank account, you can open up an investment account and save for retirement. And you can do it without fees that literally can amass 6 figures at the end of your lifetime if you go with a company like that.
Yeah, I will say one of the things David did tell me while I was coming over here was just that he said that statistically a managed fund versus an index fund will equate to literally the exact same returns. And so it really isn't about finding someone who will do it for you. It's about you going in there and doing it yourself and pushing that little invest button when you get done.
Absolutely. Yeah, just push the button. Yeah, absolutely. And again, if I think people are like, index fund, like, what is that? Again, it is just a portfolio of stocks and bonds, a combination that are going to mimic the entire market. So it is so safe. It's tried and true. Like, thank you, Jack Bogle, for creating this for us. Like, we bless you. So it's so easy to do. It's almost shocking that people don't do it. I really think it's just like the vibe around it and the verbiage around it that we need to change, because the system is there for us to opt into.
Yeah. I also have to say that if any boss listening to this goes when you're done, or just stop right now, or wait till I finish saying this and then stop and do this. If you go start a Roth IRA, tweet me, Instagram me, get in the Being Boss community and let me know. Like,
tell us. Yes. We want to celebrate with you.
Indeed. It is such a simple thing to do. It is something that, it's funny you're saying all this too. Like, I let David do it for us because I don't even know.
Yeah,
but if I knew it was this easy, I would have done it myself.
David, get out of the way.
I can do it now.
Best button. Yeah, no, totally. Totally. And, I also think that, like, just unfortunately, a lot of these sites are clunky, right? They're not pretty to look at. Are you going to get any serotonin or dopamine hits from, like, pressing the button? No, because it's like, it's your parents' button. It's your grandparents' button, It really works. It really works. And, when people ask me about something that's flashier or more fun, like NFTs, crypto, all that stuff, there's nothing inherently wrong with that. But it is not a tried and true vetted, you cannot bank on that working. And so I always say, if you're maxing out your retirement account and you still have some money left over, buy an NFT with that. Buy some crypto with that. Have some fun with that. And that's totally fine, but it is not a retirement strategy.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, let's talk about those extra things, but also legit. If anyone goes and opens one right now, I will give you a virtual / remote high five that hits so hard it stings, and it might give you a bit of dopamine.
Yes. That's true. We'll give you the dopamine.
Yeah. The button won't, but we will. Yes. We will do it.
We will. And we'll be so proud.
Indeed. Okay. I love that. You just made that basic step that everyone needs to be taking. Super simple, super digestible. But I do want to talk about the other things too, because I think, it's easy to get bitten by an investment bug. Every time I've ever gone in and played with things, I don't do Crocs. I don't do Crocs. But it is a fun thing to start making your money work for you. I mean, that's literally what we're talking about, right? And once you start seeing that it's going to be a thing and you can, save some money and invest it in something, you start thinking about other options. So I'd love to talk, maybe this is a two-sided conversation. One side of it is just investing for fun. And the other part is really hitting it with that, but we're talking about retirement.
Yeah.
Right. Because I think we have to pair those two things together, because it can be easy to think about fun, but we're talking about this in the context of retirement. So let's not forget about that. Right. What are the other things that you're doing? And what are you recommending that people do in addition to Roth IRAs if they are feeling froggy?
I love it. Okay. So something I preach so much is diversification, which is why I love an index fund, because it does it for you. But even beyond the stock market, I own real estate. That's something I got into, as soon as I could afford to do it. And then I've also taken some kind of quirky steps as far as how to save money to buy more real estate. So for instance, my partner Barry and I, we practice house hacking, which is a fun little term in the financial community that basically means we live in a duplex. So we have chosen to live in New Orleans. We call them double shotguns, which Emily knows. Mm-hmm. So we have chosen, for our family to live in quite a small space, 700 square feet. But we do this because the other side are amazing tenants. They pay us rent, and that nearly covers the mortgage. So, when we're talking about, well, how did you save money to buy this extra house or, whatever, it's like, well, because we're doing this, because I have one door and it goes to the bathroom. That's why. And so that has been, and it's funny because, now our son is almost 6 and it's like, okay, it's time. We're truly starting to outgrow it.
You need more doors.
We need more doors.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's totally okay, because another great thing about this is that nothing is permanent. Everything's an experiment. And this worked so well for us for 5 years. It allowed us to buy a house a little cabin home 2 hours away from New Orleans. It allowed us to buy this house in Vermont. And there are just amazing things we were able to do when you're able to sock away what most people would spend on a mortgage every month. Like, think about what you do with that money. So that's a little untraditional. And I'm very aware of lifestyle creep. Like, something that I really recommend, every few years, a study will come out and say, if you make $75,000 a year, anything above that, it's lagniappe, right? Like, your happiness is actually not going to change. Again, if you're listening in New York City, please replace $75,000 with however much you actually
with $175,000.
Yes, please. And it's so dependent on cost of living, right? Yeah. But once you hit that, like, okay, like I don't have to worry about money. Anything above that, put it in investments. And, that doesn't mean that you can't do fun things. Doesn't mean you can't have experiences. I value experiences so much. I also drive a 12-year-old Honda CR-V that has never had a note on it, right? So a lot of it is picking and choosing what your values are. And something I think we talked about in the last podcast is, if you don't get clear on your own financial goals, you're just going to pray to everyone else's, because Instagram and Facebook, everything is just like a highlight reel, and it's really hard to not get distracted by shiny objects, which is another great reason to start your retirement account as soon as you start your business. Because if you're not giving your money a job, it's just going to fall out of your wallet, as my grandpa used to say. Like, you got to tell it where to go, or it's just going to fly away. So that's huge. And then, both my partner retired early. He quit his corporate job when he was 32, 33-ish. He was actually laid off, but it was like perfect timing. So he was laid off at that time. And now he has had untraditional work since then. So that was another example of him really putting his head down for, 8 years working a corporate job and saving really aggressively. And now I'm kind of in a similar situation where, fortunately, I love my work a lot more than he did. So I'm happier and I'm grateful for that. But thinking about, okay, where do we want to be at 45? Well, probably still living in two places, but maybe one's not in the United States. Like, maybe we can move to Europe. Maybe we can do this. Okay, well, what's it going to take to get there? Having a huge, scary, audacious goal like that keeps me from buying a Tesla. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, I don't need the Tesla because I'm going to move to Portugal in 15 years, So, and everyone's going to be like, how'd you do it? And I'd be like, it's my 22-year-old Honda CR-V. At that point, I just grown. So I think that really making a plan is so important. And again, once you know how much money you need to be saving to hit that, then you can play with the other money. A thing about crypto and NFTs too is that you can win big and, oh my God, it feels so good, but you can lose big. The thing about an index fund is that it's boring. And I know probably no one listening to this podcast wants to be boring or have a boring life, but it's okay if your retirement investment strategy is boring. Because that's what we want. We want to be able to have the most freedom, the most choices down the line.
Yeah. My life is exciting in so many ways that I'm okay with something being boring personally.
Finally.
Like, can I just count on something?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And, another big thing about, talking about counting on the market, this year we're seeing the market take a downturn and people are scared. And something I want to remind people is, again, with the diversification aspect. For instance, last year I bought 2 houses. It was a great time to buy houses, and it was a horrible time to put money in the market because the market was so dang high. This year it's swapped. I'm not going to buy a house this year. Like, it is a terrible time to buy a home unless you really need one. And it is an amazing time to put money in the stock market because, as I say, it's all on sale. It's 20% off, get you some. Limited time only. And I always tell people too that in past downturns that we've seen in the stock market, and there have been, like 30 big downturns over the past 100 years or so, you will always still come out on top if you invested before that than if you waited. Again, because of compound interest. So if you just let your money sit in there, let it ride the next wave, you will be fine.
Yeah. Okay. Question about this, like, visualizing retirement. If we can go back into that, because that is really important. But I feel like, most creatives struggle with like a 3-year vision of their life. Like, how are we supposed to be expecting these folks, these creative, live in the moment, go with the flow folks, with planning what they want their life to look like 25 years from now?
Okay. I love this question so much because literally my strategy is plan to have enough money that you don't have to know what you want to do in 25 years, right? Plan to have the money so that in 25 years you can be like, what do I want to move to Portugal with Sarah? Hello. Do I want a lake home? Do I want to live in the city? What do I want to do? My goal is that you have the freedom to do that. I mean, you have been alongside me my whole career pretty much, and you've seen me take all these pivots. I basically had 3 big careers already in 10 years. I'm going to have a few more. Who knows what I'm going to want to do at 45? Again, I'm just planning so that I have the option, and so that I'm not like, I still have to work, but now like I'm not passionate about it, or I still have to work, but the market has changed. I feel like the pandemic taught us that we never know what's coming. And the last thing I would want is to be like, I have to do something I don't want to do to pay my bills. I don't want that for anyone listening.
Yeah.
I want that freedom for you that you have now to continue. And that's why this is so important.
I also love that this is illustrated in this fact that you shared, that literally the thing that you're doing in January is maxing out your IRA first.
Yeah.
Nerd.
I'm nerd alert. I mean, these glasses are real. Okay.
Yeah.
These are not fake. I literally need them. So
but
I
love that.
strain with my calculator. Yeah. And I mean, honestly, like we talk a lot about profit first. I know you've talked about, that system, which is so great. And it's literally when I do it, I'm like, I am paying future Sarah. Like in 20 years, she's going to be like, thank you.
Yeah.
So for me, obviously like an investment in your future self is always a good investment. Like you are literally paying toward the future. And again, I'm so nerdy. I'm like, well, if I do it January 3rd, I'll know with 0.0485 more dollars,
Oh
so
my
that's
God.
why I do it at the beginning of the year.
I love that. You're really hacking it for yourself, aren't you?
I mean, again, so fun at parties. Invite me to your next party. I will bring my calculator.
Right. Oh, but no, this is really good. I feel like this really paints, or I hope this is offering a mindset shift to anyone who has been putting it off. Of one, it can be super easy.
Yeah.
2, it doesn't need to be intimidating or like too big to handle. And 3, it should be priority number 1.
Right. Because you're literally paying future you. And I think that no one listening wants to feel stuck ever. That's why we're entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah.
We want the freedom. And that's why it's so important.
So I want to go to matching Roth IRAs as your business matching your contributions.
I see. Okay. So I think you were talking about a 401k.
Okay. Is that the thing?
Yes. Yeah. I don't think I know, Emily.
Okay. So, oh no, you're right. Yes, that one.
And I would love to talk about that. Okay. So a Roth IRA, again, it stands for independent retirement. So it is, you are on your own. Can you write the check from your business account? Totally, and it can be like in your business, but it's again, not tax deductible.
Mm-hmm.
No Roth is. That's part of the beauty of it. Because since it's not tax deductible, you've already paid the taxes on that $6,000, all the growth you don't have to pay taxes on. So that's why it's appealing. And again, I love a diversification. So if you have a traditional IRA, don't freak out. That's still great. Having either is amazing. But the magic of an individual 401k or a solo 401k, they're the same thing, but you've got a couple different names, is that yes, you can contribute 2 ways, as your employer and as you, the employee. So me, Sarah Becker, even though I am only one person, in the eyes of the law, I have my business and I have myself. So every year as an employee, and the max changes a little bit every couple years, right? But as of this recording, the max is $20,500 as me as a person. So I can put that much money in every year, no matter how much money I'm making. Okay. And that is a huge amount of money. So that's, you don't need to do, if you're doing that, you are like top 0.001%. So again, I don't want to throw these numbers around. This is just what the government says you can do. But then no matter how much money you've put in as a person, so let's say that you've started an individual 401k, but your max is like $5,000 a year. Okay. That's totally fine. Do that. But then as your employer, your business at the end of the year can put up to 25% of your profit into that account for you. Okay. So that's amazing because that is, I mean, I've never seen a more legitimate write-off. Okay. Now the government does say, hey, $61,000 total each year. We're not going to let you put any more than that. Again, if you're making that much money, call me because we need to have a more robust retirement plan. But that is an incredible way to do it both, have it both ways.
Yeah. I do know that one thing with doing 401ks, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong and that I know something that is not true, is that if you are doing this for yourself, you have to do this for all of your employees.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay, look, I know something.
Yes, that is correct. And look, that kind of depends that depends on so many different factors. It even depends on what state you live in. It's mostly correct. It depends on if your employees are part-time or full-time. It depends on what tax bracket you're in, the percentage, and it all tweaks a little bit. But yes. So you're going to want to think about, when you start a 401k, if you were contributing as your business or even like a SEP IRA and you're planning on having full-time employees, there are implications of that. And that's when it's a really good time to sit down with your CPA and be like, okay, where is this business exactly in the eyes of the law? What can I do? What makes the most sense for me as a person?
Yeah, which is why doing your own personal Roth IRA is just another reason why it's
another reason why it's the best step. It's the easiest. And again, I love that you're paying, even though it's not deductible now, you don't have to pay taxes on that money later. And again, I just think that growth, it's just, I wish you could see me.
Her arms are just flailing.
It's so much money. I'm just envisioning piles and piles of money for future you.
Indeed. That is the goal. All right, boss, because you're here, I know you want to be a better creative business owner, which means I've got something for you. Each week, the team at Being Boss is scouring the news, the best entrepreneurial publications, and updates and releases of the apps and tools that run our businesses, and is curating it all into a weekly email that delivers the must-know tips and tactics in the realms of mindset, money, and productivity. This email is called Brewed. We brew it up for you each week to give you the insight you need to make decisions and move forward in your creative business. Check it out now and sign up for yourself at beingboss.club/brewed. That's beingboss.club/BREWED. Now, until next time, do the work, be boss.
Yeah.